All right. Got a few minutes to discuss. How do you react to all that?
I guess for me, just to throw in there, the addition of that empathy piece has been so powerful in my own experience. When we first did this, especially just to disconnect my own guilt and shame and connect with somebody else's hurt is so cool. We had an opportunity to counsel a couple, and we didn't actually go through this exact tool, but he had had an affair with another woman, and it was just a huge thing. It always came up, and he was never, I think he felt so much shame every time it was brought up. He was never able to connect with how much it actually hurt her, because anytime she brought it up, he immediately just felt like, you hate me, I'm the worst person. And we were able to help him disconnect from his own feelings of that and actually feel how she felt. And it was so powerful to watch this guy say, I imagine you must have felt this. And we're like, what if it wasn't you? How would you feel for her? And in this moment, he's like, thinking of my wife being treated like this makes me so angry. I can't believe anybody would treat her that way. And it was so healing for her to hear that. It meant so much to her, because rather than him just feeling shame, he felt what she felt and he cared for it. It was the empathy piece in the middle of this is so powerful, in my opinion. I should use it more often. I often just do the confession and then asking for forgiveness, which is great. I think that's fantastic. But the addition of the empathy is powerful. Anyways, that's my. I really believe in it. It's so cool.
Other thoughts, questions?
I guess since you guys had your chance to jump in, I have a question. A lot of this is assumption. It's like I'm assuming this hurt you. I'm assuming this is how that may have felt. What about the times when it's like, one of the ways that I see that I hurt you is this, and the other person's like, that didn't hurt, or like, don't put that words in my mouth that you hurt me when I'm fine. It's more about you and your stuff, not like. Anyways, have you seen that, or how do you navigate that?
Yeah, the idea that I may feel convicted of something being wrong or hurtful that the other person may not remember, or I have not heard of anyone being like offended. So I might start with, okay, so what's the goal here? Are we wanting oneness, or is there a different goal in place? But it's fairly common that the Spirit brings conviction on someone, and the other person doesn't even remember the event. And so we just go, well, that's great. You obeyed the Spirit, and that's awesome. And what we encourage the person who can't remember to say is, well, celebrate the fact that they're obedient and they care enough about you to bring that, even if it didn't hurt. They're trying to make sure there are no barriers to relationship with you. So celebrate that, even though you may not be able to respond. And certainly you can forgive or assure them that even though you never did hold it against them, you do not now currently hold it against them. And so their place of repentance or wrongness can be ministered to. So you can minister back to them. And oftentimes what that is it is the Spirit trying to release the offender from a sense of guilt or shame by bringing it up. That would be the most common way that we see it played out. I have not personally witnessed. It may be more common when I'm not watching or I'm not in the room, where somebody would say, "Hey, no, that's your stuff." That's just not been our experience. It's mostly we just coach people that can't remember. Just say, "Well, thank you for doing that, and certainly you're forgiven, and thank you for wanting to keep short accounts, and to celebrate the effort, even if it wasn't an actual hurt or offense or wrong or sin or whatever." By the way, in all of that, I do not equate, a list of sins as the only thing that's wrong. So I can be wrong without at least blatant or obvious sin. If I don't care about you as the Lord has asked me to, that can be wrong. And I think sometimes we can, maybe it's moralism, maybe it's just our sense of, our sense of standard and rightness, which is not a bad thing. It can't be the only thing. It can't be the trump thing, the rightness. I think we can miss obvious hurts and wrongs that could be really building and edifying to walk through and create that care and relationship, care and connection. Anything else on your mind? Yeah, there. And by the way, if you guys have other great tools that you find for these things, please. We just want to create as much collaboration, and I'm not married to anything in terms of tools. I'm always on the hunt for good, better, best kind of stuff. These are the best tools that I've found, and try to explain why I like them and why they seem efficient to me. But it's not offensive to me if you've got a tool that you love or you found, or there's a better one. Just want to equip the body as much as we can to.
Hey, Pat, real quick, not necessarily related to the topic, but to format in which, like when you do retreats, you said you'll have a time when you come back together and discuss how the tool or exercise went. What were some of those questions that you asked to probe the people there? You mentioned like, hey, how did it go, or how was the experience? What'd you learn? What were some of the other questions you'd ask?
Was there anything that was hard or difficult for you? What do you feel well? How did you feel doing it? What was your experience? Any of those things to get people talking. And honestly, it's lots of people don't want to talk about that. They see that, especially that classroom setting, where it feels more like a classroom or seminar setting. It's harder for them to engage. And the less they know me or us, or less connected, then the more likely it is that they won't share stories. But it's always really edifying when people do.
That's good. Thank you.
You may have, the whole point of that, Tom, is you may have to twist some arms. I know you're heading into that retreat. You're going to be prepping, so setting people up to prepare for that and commit. You maybe even commit to that. Will you commit to sharing your life with the rest of us in the room? May help you when you get to those points.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just one more question, and this might not, you guys might not connect with this, but I've just kind of been processing some in myself. When someone's angry at me, it brings out a lot of really interesting emotions, usually some of those guilt, like I must have done something wrong if someone's angry. Would you see anger response in someone typically a place where there is a hurt that would be a good place to address, or do you disconnect those? I know for me, they're super connected. If somebody's angry, it's like, okay, I obviously hurt them, but anger comes out in lots of other reasons, but I can't decipher that myself.
Yeah, I think anything you see as a trigger, including even just, somebody's countenance falling, would be things, hey, are we okay here? Could you tell me how you're doing? I'd love to understand. And if it is obvious anger, then I think saying, you know what, I sense I've hurt you and it's made you angry. I'd love to hear about how that hurt you. So that's how I would try to approach it if we're going to be a peacemaker, and we have to be so much of this is just gospel centric. We want to, well, no, you can't see that I sin. That's not okay. I can tell you I sin, but if you see it, that's not okay. Or if you experience my sin and call me out on it, no, that's not okay. Well, it should be. And so I just think those are really natural ways the Lord that's given for us as we're paying attention to relationship, people we care about, to watch their countenance. They feel cold, and to not judge them or to double down with our offense and say, fine, I'll be offended too. But to just press in and go, tell me what you're experiencing. It seems like maybe thinking about something that's sad or hurtful. I'd love to hear about that, even if it's not an obvious outburst. So I think that we're compelled to do that. And oftentimes when you're working with couples, because of some of the distressing situations or patterns, that's not safe. And so that's why we start with these basic skills. Say, well, how would you say something? How would you let yourself be known? And even working with mission couples, pastor couples, oftentimes just the ability to say what's important to me in a way that's, I feel like I could be heard, it's non-existent. They're just kind of that prepare and rich graph of assertiveness is just really, really low. And not typically in mission couples both, but often one or the other feels really unknown and like they have to be passive. They can't they don't have a voice to communicate what they're feeling or thinking. So that's just really, really common. So you're going to run into those, and it may surprise you sometimes how couples can struggle with some of those things that you would think, oh, you should be able to do this, but they just form habits where that's not normal, and then normal just becomes abnormal and broken cycles.